Anthony Hopkins, the legendary Welsh actor whose career spans decades of critically acclaimed performances, has always been a figure of quiet intensity and profound introspection. In recent reflections on his personal life, Hopkins opens up about the turbulent beginnings of his journey into fatherhood and marriage, a chapter marked by passion, conflict, and ultimately, a painful departure. His first marriage to Petronella Barker, a woman whose vibrant spirit contrasted sharply with his own brooding demeanor, unfolded against the backdrop of 1960s London, a city alive with cultural revolution yet unforgiving to the fragile bonds of young love. They met in the whirlwind of artistic circles, where actors and creatives mingled like sparks from a bonfire, drawn together by an irresistible chemistry that promised everything and delivered a storm. From the outset, their union was a delicate balance of opposites. Hopkins, then a rising star on the stages of the National Theatre, embodied a restless ambition fueled by his working-class roots in Port Talbot, Wales. Barker, with her free-spirited Norwegian heritage and artistic leanings, brought a lightness that initially captivated him. They exchanged vows in September 1967, in a ceremony that felt more like a defiant declaration than a serene commitment. The early months were a haze of shared dreams, late-night discussions about Shakespearean roles, impromptu dances in cramped apartments, and the thrill of building a life amid the swinging 60s. But beneath this facade lurked deeper incompatibilities. Hopkins' internalized pressures from his craft clashed with Barker's more extroverted emotional needs, creating fissures that alcohol would soon widen into chasms. Alcohol, that insidious companion to so many in the entertainment world, entered their story not as a guest but as an uninvited resident. Hopkins, like countless others navigating the highs and lows of early fame, turned to drink as a balm for insecurities. It dulled the edges of rejection from auditions, amplified the euphoria of applause, and numbed the gnawing fear of inadequacy that haunted his nights. For Barker, it transformed her husband from a loving partner into a distant shadow, prone to brooding silences or explosive outbursts. Their home, a modest flat in the heart of London's theatre district, became a microcosm of this discord. Meals that should have been celebrations turned into battlegrounds, where words were weapons and silences were sieges. Jealousy festered, his over her social freedoms, hers over the sirens of the stage who vied for his attention. Financial strains added fuel. Hopkins' sporadic successes meant lean times, and the weight of providing clashed with his artistic pursuits. Yet, amid this gathering storm, a beacon of pure joy emerged, their daughter Abigail. Born in August 1968, she arrived like a fragile gift, her cries piercing the veil of tension that shrouded the household. Hopkins describes the moment he first held her as a revelation, a crack in his armored soul through which unconditional love poured unbidden. Abigail, with her wide eyes and tufts of dark hair, became the axis around which their fractured world spun. The nursery, a small room painted in soft pastels and adorned with mobiles of paper stars, transformed into a sanctuary. Here Hopkins would cradle her for hours, whispering tales of Welsh myths, stories of dragons and ancient kings, to her sleeping form. Barker's face would soften in these moments, her hands joining his in gentle strokes over the baby's downy cheek. 4 fleeting instances, they were a family, united in awe of this tiny miracle who demanded nothing but their presence. But peace was ephemeral. The arguments escalated, each one layering resentment like sediment in a riverbed. Hopkins' career demanded long hours, pulling him into rehearsals that stretched into dawn and tours that separated him from home for weeks. Returning from these absences, he often found Barker simmering with unspoken grievances, accusations of neglect, laments over lost spontaneity. He, in turn, felt besieged by expectations he couldn't meet, his temper fraying under the dual assault of exhaustion and ethanol. The air in their flat grew thick with unspoken accusations, the walls echoing with raised voices that once harmonized in laughter. Neighbors, accustomed to the city's nocturnal symphony, might have dismissed the muffled shouts as just another domestic opera, but for the couple each clash eroded the foundation they had so hastily laid. The breaking point arrived on a rain-lashed evening in late 1969, after Hopkins had spent grueling weeks filming on location in the rugged wilds of Scotland. The production, a gritty period drama that tested his mettle against howling winds and skeptical directors, left him hollowed out, physically spent, emotionally raw. He arrived home past midnight, coat dripping onto the threadbare rug, suitcases thudding like accusations against the floor. Barker, perhaps sensing vulnerability as weakness, greeted him not with open arms but with barbed words. Her mockery sliced through the fatigue. jabs at his disheveled appearance, his absence, his perceived failures as a provider and partner. In that charged moment, something primal stirred within Hopkins, a revulsion not just at her tone, but at the man he had become, a powder keg of frustration and fear. He had never raised a hand in anger before. Violence was anathema to his gentle core, a line he swore never to cross. Yet, in that suspended heartbeat, the impulse flickered, dark, insistent, born of accumulated wounds. It terrified him, not for the act itself but for what it revealed, a mirror to the monster he might unleash if he stayed. Fear for her safety, for his own unraveling soul, propelled him past her, through the dim hallway to Abigail's nursery. The door creaked open to reveal his daughter in peaceful slumber, her chest rising and falling like a metronome of innocence. Kneeling beside the crib, Hopkins pressed his lips to her forehead, inhaling the milky scent of babyhood, and murmured a goodbye that tore at his heart. "I'll always love you," he whispered, the words a vow against the void. Suitcases in hand, coat still buttoned against the chill, he walked out into the night, the door clicking shut like the final curtain on a tract.